One of the security analysts on my team was fired yesterday. Yesterday, we had an ad hoc meeting where we were told somebody got let go from our team and that everybody else on the meeting was not on any list to get let go, which isn't very comforting because that's something you would say if you were in a meeting with everybody else there. But anyways, this is the reality of cybersecurity. Sort of. Let me explain. So cybersecurity as it's portrayed in the media is kind of overhyped and misunderstood. What you see in the media, what you see from most content creators, what you see from most videos, for somebody who Googles or YouTubes cybersecurity, they're going to see the fun stuff, the hacking stuff, the stuff that is actually very technically difficult to do and is a very small subset of what cybersecurity is as a whole. In actuality, cybersecurity is kind of boring. As my wife would attest to, whenever I go on about something at work, I try to word it as simply as possible, but even still, it just comes across as just white noise to her. For the most part, most cybersecurity positions, consulting, penetration testing, SOC analyst positions, security engineers, it's a lot of the same thing. It's staring at a computer screen for 12 hours a day. It's meetings, it's tickets, it's alerts, it's escalations, it's mostly documentation, it's mostly reporting, it's mostly emailing, it's mostly communication between company to employees, employee to employees. You know, security isn't as exciting as it's portrayed. And a lot of that is to be expected because most of what you're raised around in media is the fun stuff. It's the stuff that is the hacking, and that's generally what people think cybersecurity is. If you told somebody on the street, hey, I do cybersecurity for a living, they would be like, oh, so you're a hacker. Like, no, that's not what I do. In fact, hacking is the reason cybersecurity is needed, because of hackers. We're here to make sure that hackers don't get their way and don't get to take advantage of the general population that doesn't know how to secure their things, which is why we're needed and why we make so much money. In actuality, cybersecurity is really hard. It's really technical. It goes beyond your general technical support type of work. So you're not just configuring systems, but you're configuring systems and you're installing systems and you're making sure everything is secure in addition to working. Because at the end of the day, the two things that need to happen in a business is it needs to work and it needs to be secure. Because if you don't have those two things, then sooner or later, somebody's gonna break it if it's not secure. And if it's not working, then you don't really need security. Which brings me to the next kind of dark truth about cybersecurity, is that a lot of times you may find in the industry is you get the people that see the opportunity to make a lot of money and they take advantage. You have the employees that have been around for a really long time and maybe they worked in the technical part and then they moved up into security because they showed an interest. Because they've been there so long, they said, oh yeah, I know how to do this, it's fine. And then when they get there, they actually don't know how to do it and they just accepted the pay increase, and so they kind of ruin it for the rest of the people in the security department or the people who get onboarded who know what they're doing, and it takes a little while for them to get cleared out of the system, so to speak. They don't put forth the effort to actually learn what they say they know how to do. They don't put forth effort to learn on a day-to-day basis, because at the end of the day, this position is all about learning constantly, because with updates to systems, with new technology coming in, you're going to be constantly having to relearn how something works and how to protect it. It's those types of people that don't want to put in the work that are making it more difficult for the rest of the team. And I'm not saying this is what happened to this particular person, but from the gist of it that I understood, they were solely supposed to be doing one particular job and everybody else surrounding them was doing, I don't know, 90% of the work, or maybe they were doing some side project that I'm unaware of, but regardless, they were let go for what I seem to think is not putting in the work, the effort, probably not learning as well as they needed to, or didn't show an interest in learning. And they had been here for a few years, actually. They've been here longer than 3 or 4 of the people on the team. It doesn't matter how long you've been at a company. The reality of cybersecurity is you have to evolve with the times. You have to grow with the technology. You have to make sure you know the new threats coming in, and you just have to put in the work. Which kind of brings me into the next point, where the combination of cybersecurity in actuality being more boring than you might anticipate. If you're coming out of college, if you're coming out of a boot camp that was kind of exciting, if you're coming out of certificates, plus the combination of maybe you did that and you think that's all you need to learn, and maybe you're one of those bad eggs, or maybe you're about to experience one of these bad eggs. In the cybersecurity industry, there is a somewhat well-known understanding that there's a high turnaround rate, at least for the very experienced people, for a number of reasons. One, there's usually going to be a better opportunity somewhere else. Generally speaking, you're not always going to be in the best paying position at a particular company, there will most likely be another company that is willing to pay you more if you're very experienced. So CISOs, for example, have a very high turnaround rate. In fact, the company I'm currently working at, the CISO had just left for another CISO position, and they were on the process of onboarding a new one. If you're very experienced, you can find a job somewhere else for most likely more pay, and so that leads into having to constantly rehire and rehire. And so there's this high demand, at least for the mid to senior level positions. Because of that, you get these people who have this fake experience, and they again ruin it, and they make it difficult, and then you go through this process before you realize, oh wait, they're not as qualified as they said they were, and they don't seem to be helping improve anything, or at the very least helping keep it going. They're actually making it slightly worse. And two, aside from the better opportunities, because of how boring the job can be, you run the risk of burning out in your position and stressing yourself out to the point where you want to do something else. Because cybersecurity is so easy to move laterally, there's all these other opportunities that you can go to spice up your work life. So if you are a SOC analyst, you could try your hand on penetration testing, or you could try consulting, or you could try cloud security, or you become more of a security engineer and actually handling the tools rather than incidents, or you could become a network security engineer where you just manage the security on a network. The list goes on. But the point is we have such an opportunity to move if you can get to this position where you have the knowledge, the experience to be able to move laterally. So it's kind of a pro and con type of battle that you're weighing out when you go into a position and you stay there for a certain amount of time. Is the money paying you enough to deal with being bored, if that's the case? Is the type of work, the coworkers, the stress that you're getting enough for you to not want to take a better, more high-paying position? So you may find you're constantly meeting new coworkers in this field because it's constantly evolving, it's constantly moving, and further adding to the turnaround rate is the stress that is induced on your inability to make a major mistake. Generally, in any position, you can do your job poorly, or you can make a mistake even on a daily basis, and it doesn't have major repercussions. If we compare, say, production, making something work in a business versus securing something in a business, if something goes down, you might lose sales, you might lose, for that period of time, you might lose a little bit of time to finish work. If a breach occurs onto the production system, then that is something that can become catastrophic very quickly. So this is the type of industry that you need to be constantly on your toes, constantly waiting, constantly aware of everything. And so it's really difficult to know everything, which goes back to the difficulty of the job, adding to how boring it can be. So it takes a special type of person to excel in the field to a senior position, if that makes sense. This isn't to scare anybody away. It's just to say you need to be okay with taking the anxiety and stress and risk of the position and not get burnt out, but then also be okay with the boring aspect. So I apologize if this video is kind of all over the place. Kind of wanted to put my 2 cents in on the dark side of cybersecurity, the downsides basically, and I'm not really worried about the person who got left off because they've been in the company for probably 3+ years, and with that kind of experience on a resume, I'm sure they're gonna get another SOC analyst position, because as I said before, this is a very high demand job right now for experienced individuals. You have to grind until you can get your foot into the door, and once you're there, use that position to learn, to gain the experience and knowledge that will make it so moving laterally is going to be it's going to take very little effort, and you're going to have all these opportunities coming your way, and it's going to be really difficult to say no. So anyways, I hope that was helpful for some of you, kind of get your understanding on what this field is. I did make a video on what exactly cybersecurity is, but I didn't really discuss kind of the cons. It kind of just played up the pros. So I hope that didn't dissuade anybody from getting into the field. It is scary, but it is also very rewarding if you can stomach staring at your computer screen all day long, which I personally love. I don't get burnt out staring at a screen. I've done it for 15+ years, it still doesn't bug me, and working remote is fantastic. So yeah, I hope that was helpful. Thanks everybody for watching. I'll see you in the next video.